Hello, my name is Tony. I'm not going to put too fine a point on this. The Legacy is a dumbed-down, third-rate British knockoff of Dario Argento's Suspiria, released a year earlier. Suspiria is a film I would recommend without hesitation, a modern classic of the horror genre, masterfully directed, visually stunning, atmospherically unique and unsettling. It's steeped in a malevolently creepy and sometimes ear-splitting soundtrack from progressive rock band Goblin with knockout sound design and art direction, plus shitloads of giallo-tinctured gore and flinch-inducing death scenes. The Legacy I would only recommend if you wanted an extended episode of Roald Dahl's Tales of the Unexpected, with slightly higher production values, a longer running time, but delivering of a thoroughly mediocre, borderline imbecilic experience. Why am I reviewing it? Well, as usual, I saw it back in the day when I was still going out to see anything and everything at my local Cinematheque, and someone makes repeated requests for it, which will now most likely stop. One bird with one stone. So let's have at it. Brief background, what it's about, what it's like.
The background.
Hammer stalwart screenwriter Jimmy Sangster's original script was set in a rundown hospital in Detroit. Somehow a decision was made to relocate the action to a mansion in the English countryside. Two other writers, I use the term loosely, were drafted in to make changes. However, despite the geographical switch, the two focal protagonists remained American. This was the debut feature film of Richard Marquand, who went on to direct Return of the Jedi, yeah that figures, and the popular Joe Eszterhas scripted thriller Jagged Edge. I can't imagine it was the promise he demonstrated with The Legacy that bagged him those two gigs, but you never know. Maybe he's a George Lucas love child or something. Kiki D sings the moribund theme song, Michael J. Lewis provides a by-the-numbers score, and the usually reliable Dick Bush, no relation, lenses competently enough, providing some decent visuals and scenery to look at, which are the classiest things about it. What's it all about then, I hear you cry, or imagine I do? Well, if I must.
What it's about.
Considering it's as confused and uncoordinated as a blindfolded, one-legged man tightrope walking across Niagara Falls with a starving falcon glued to his head, not that easy to say. Still, the bare bones of the plot narrative, such as it is, goes thus. Maggie, Catherine Ross, and boyfriend Pete Sam Elliott are interior designers from LA. They get a $50,000 retainer from persons unknown for an unspecified job in the UK, which they think is a bit odd, but they take the dough and go anyway, as you would. Tooling around the English countryside on a motorbike, they're run off the road by a Rolls Royce. It belongs to quintessential English toff stereotype Jason Mount Olive, John Standing, who insists they come back to his place whilst their motorbike is being fixed in the local village. The local village has a grocery store, a butcher, a garage, but no locals to speak of. Bit of a ghost town. I can't do this. I just can't do it. Let's cut to the chase. Mount Olive lives in this big-ass country pile. He's a descendant of a local witch burned at the stake, Lady Margaret Walsingham. He's dying and wants to bequeath his supernatural powers and influence on one of the 5 potential heirs he's invited to his home for the weekend. Maggie is in fact the 6th member of this coven, unbeknownst to her, and looks just like the portrait of Lady Margaret, so she's probably a reincarnation at a guess. Mount Olive sacrifices the original 5 to the Dark Lord Satan, as they all get bumped off one by one in spooky, inexplicable ways, supposedly mirroring the crimes they've committed during their charmed lives. What goes around comes around. Maggie's the only one left. She gets the estate and the power. She recruits Pete to a life of Satanism. They look to the future. David Bowie used to write down a lot of words and phrases, cut them up, throw them in the air, then compose lyrics based on their random positioning when they fell. So he once alleged. You never really knew with Bowie. The Legacy takes the horror movie supernatural shocker playbook and uses the same process. Only it's a mess, because unlike Bowie, it has little sense of connective structure in the creative process. Disjointed abstracts can work well in song composition, not so much in the medium of film, without the application of coherent storytelling skills or some visual artistic techniques applied in an allegorical or metaphorical sense. None of that here. There is some low-grade fun to be had. Roger Daltrey as Clive, a music producer. The mansion is actually Daltrey's real home. He allowed filming to take place there on the proviso so he could have a part in the movie. The script was hastily rewritten and the character of Clive created to accommodate. Here's the best death scene. He chokes on a chicken bone, although he had eaten no chicken, only ham, appropriately enough. What kills him is Mount Olive's creepy nurse Margaret Tyzack performing a very messy tracheotomy, which goes hilariously wrong. Why, it's just like the case of the musician he supplied with dodgy drugs who died by asphyxiation. Sort of. A fucking big steak knife to the gizzard is really what offs him. Ex-Nazi and businessman Carl Charles Gray was once accused of arson. He gets engulfed in a massive fireball which surges from the fireplace and incinerates his ass. Barbara Hildegard Neal is impaled by glass shards from an exploding mirror. She stabbed a lover allegedly. Top-flight swimmer Maria Marianne Broom drowns when an invisible shield forms over the surface of the magnificent indoor pool. Did she drown someone? Dunno. And Jacques Lee Montague has his face blown off when a shotgun misfires. Did he shoot someone? Don't care. By the midpoint, suspicions aroused, Maggie and Pete decide to escape. Cue picturesque and rabidly tedious interlude of them galloping around the countryside on horseback. Then they steal Mount Olive's roller from the village. Cue even more tedious scenes of them driving around the countryside whatever road they take, returning them to the mansion. This goes on, with Pete taking over the driving as if that'll make a difference and burning through the runtime until they decide they've had enough and give up, just like I did about 30 minutes earlier. Sometimes absurdity can be amusing. Here is just mindless and frustrating. Mount Olive lies in bed in a chrome and glass medical facility on the upper floor of the mansion. He has transformed from a dapper country squire type to a wizened creature who has gnarled claws for hands and a flattened face that looks like someone dropped an anvil on it. The raspy breathing behind bed curtains steals directly from Suspiria and not particularly effectively. The creepy nurse could also be a white cat, a familiar. Why white? Don't black cats matter? You won't get away with that these days, racist patriarchy. Anyway, Pete throws her down the stairs and kills her. She comes back to life in the end though. Why? Why is she immortal and Mount Olive isn't? He's supposed to be the one with the fucking power. Carl is a big robust guy. After he gets burned, his remains fit into a small black bin bag, which is emptied into the courtyard for the dogs to eat. I know stuff shrinks and contracts under the flame, but that much? When Jacques takes pot shots at Pete with a 12-bore from the roof of the mansion, the gunshot FX and zinging ricochets sound like they're from a spaghetti western. For a few dollars more, surely they could have done better than that. There has got to be some positives, right? There's got to be. Daltrey is good fun and looks happy to be there. Catherine Ross and Sam Elliott are a handsome-looking couple with a deal of on-screen chemistry. They got it on for real in the real world. They married in 1984. The editor, Anne V. Coates, won an Oscar for Lawrence of Arabia. I know awards don't mean anything, and if you ever needed evidence, this is it. But at least someone on the technical side had a status symbol in their resume. The swimming pool death is visually very impressively shot. The scenery is nice if dull. Oh, I've already said that. Must be reaching now. I'll stop.
What's it like?
How best to describe it in summation? Oh, I know. Imagine Agatha Christie has just finished watching a double bill of Suspiria and The Omen at a local Odeon in 1977. She's leaving, hobbling through the lobby on 2 sticks because she's old and fucked up now, not to mention dead as of 1976. The popcorn machine malfunctions and explodes, sending a hard kernel of corn into the head of this undead pensioner, performing an instantaneous leucotomy as it slices its way through and causing severe cerebral trauma. She spends 9 months in a coma, with fragmented movie images and passages from her novel 10 Little Indians playing on a continuous disjointed loop in the comatose depths of her malfunctioning psyche before waking up. When she wakes up, she suffers an immediate catastrophic stroke. After a further 6 months of hack brain surgery and physical rehab, now confined to a wheelchair, she decides to take up writing again. What shall I write, she thinks, or
What's write?
the screenplay for The Legacy is born. That's what it's like. Well, that's enough of that. Thank you for your time and attention. Do whatever you want to do. Hit like, don't like, comment, subscribe, be a patron of my Patreon thing, make a financial contribution to keep the wheels turning fractionally, and provide me with the odd Bombay bad boy pot noodle via the thanks button. This could be the bottom of the barrel for me, which is saying something. Saying a lot, in fact. I'd like to tell you I'll be back, but I don't feel I can right now. Sometimes, you know.
That is better.
Thanks, Judd.